Okay, so we're going to start to move on from the eyes. Now keep in mind that there's a lot more control that you guys can add in here if you wanted to. So things that we didn't do were attaching these bottom controls, okay, to do, maybe open up the eyes a little bit to extend that surprise that we've got built into the top. You could do, if you wanted the eyelid, just the bottom lids up. We could build a couple of blend shapes. We're just going to lift those bottom lids up. So I definitely recommend that you guys go in there and mess with a few of those things and just, again, try to make the rigs as robust as possible. And we can come back and maybe touch on some of those things a little bit later, but right now I want to move on to the mouth. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to add a control that is going to allow our character to smile. Okay, so let's go ahead and, if you haven't already, go ahead and open up our toolbox. Okay, I'm going to make sure to open up my TD tools so I can build a couple of controls here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just create a sphere. Okay, so my pick shape, I'm going to create a sphere. I'm not going to have anything selected. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit create. Okay, I'm going to move him up. And I'm going to try to position this guy. One, we can scale him down a little bit. Select my control vertices. Oops, make sure I turn off my joint selection. Alright, just scale him down a smidge. Alright, I'm going to go to modify center pivot. Get my pivot right back in the center here. Okay, I'm going to move him over. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and actually, so I'm going to put him kind of close to the corner of the mouth. Okay, maybe move him back just a little bit. Okay, now when I get him about into place, I'm going to go ahead and modify freeze transforms. Okay, so that's going to zero out all of my translate rotate values. And now that he's here, I'm going to name him. I'm going to say left smile control or something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and hit group me. Okay, for some reason when I grouped it, it added my some location values back to my initial control here. So let's see what happens. If I zero these out, I'm guessing he's going to go back to 0, 0, 0 space. Oh, he's actually going to jump up. So let's undo a few times until we get back before we froze our transforms. Okay, so right there. So this is the last step that I did before I froze transforms, so I still have those translate values and stuff on there. Now, it must be a way that that group me function works in the CGM tools where it's going to go ahead and freeze some of those transforms for us, or they transfer them up. So we can go ahead and leave those on there for now. Again, I'm going to come back down here and name left smile control. Okay, go back to my toolbox and hit group me. Okay, so we have this 0.027 here. I'm not worried about that too much. I'm going to zero him out. And then I'll use my group to put me into place. Okay, so I'm actually going to center the pivot on my group as well. Okay, so I want to make sure that's right in the center of our control. And now with our group selected, I'm going to go ahead and move it up a little bit, move him out. And what I want is I want to control that when I drag in Z, that character is going to smile. The mouth is going to follow. Now, what you're going to notice is if I have it pulled directly back in Z, it actually goes into the mesh. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that group and I'm actually going to rotate this control. Okay, so that our Z is facing down the face instead of straight back. Okay, so if I selected my smile control, you can see now when I drag it back in Z space, okay, it's not actually going through the mesh, which is good. Okay, and if we wanted to, we could probably take this group and pull him out just a little bit more, but this should be okay. Okay, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to mirror this control over to the other side before I actually connect it to anything. So let's go ahead and try to do that. I'm going to select my left smile group control. I'm going to hit Control G, okay, to group it again. This is going to simply be a mirror group for me. Alright. With that group selected, I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate. I'm going to hit R for scale. And I want to scale this in the X direction to a value of -1. Okay, so we should have our control on this side. We have our control on this side. What you're going to see is, let's go ahead and pull these both out of that group. Okay, so I'm going to take this control, middle mouse button, pull him out. Middle mouse button, this other control, pull him out of his group. And I'm going to go ahead and delete those empty groups. Okay, so select both, make sure we don't have any transform values. Okay, but what you're going to notice is that our Z is facing out from our character on this control, and on this control it is facing in. Okay, so that happened when we mirrored that over. So what we could do is I'm going to come in here to that group, and I have a rotate value of 201. Okay, so we could actually rotate this around. And we can reposition our Z control here. Okay, so if we wanted to, we could do a little bit of quick math and figure out how to make sure that these are exactly the same as far as our orientations. But for what we're doing, it's not going to matter too much as long as our Z is, our controls aren't going to get hidden inside the face. Okay, so let's go ahead and rename this real quick so we don't get them confused. I'm going to name this right. Rename this guy right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save just in case something happens that I don't lose our progress here. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and create my blend shapes. So I'm going to select my mesh again like we did before. I'm going to come up to my shape editor. I'm going to add a new target, and I'm going to rename this target left smile. Okay, now this is going to be less of a smile, so what we're not going to do is we don't want to bring the corner of the face back and up. Okay, we're just going to have it bring as much as we can kind of straight back this way. So more of a smirk than a smile, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, so I'm going to start off using my just selecting faces to pull this. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to go to my tool options under my soft select, and I'm going to turn that value up to maybe 0.2. Okay, and make sure that I select the corner of the mouth here. And actually we can probably even turn that to 0.3. Maybe a little too much. Let's try 0.25. Okay, so I didn't want to move the nose too much. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring this guy back. Let's bring him out just a little bit. Bring it back. Bring him out maybe just a little bit. I'm going to rotate all these faces down just a smidge. Okay, so for now that will be fine. What I am going to do is I'm going to bring this back down to 0.1. If we come straight back here, you're going to see that angle is pretty linear. Now you got to imagine that we have some teeth in there, so we want that expression to move around the teeth. So I'm actually just going to bring the top lip up just a little bit. Okay, and maybe bring these guys out. Okay, the other thing that we're going to want to do, and some of this is kind of naturally started to happen for us, is that smile line. So when the mouth goes back, we're going to push some of that volume into the cheeks just a little bit. Okay, so if we wanted to, we could move and puff these guys out just a little. I'm going to grab our cheeks. I'm going to move them out just a little bit. Okay, and let's just go ahead and see how that looks for us. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my shape editor. Okay, I think we could add a little more volume into some of these areas here. Bring this back up. Okay, I think I'm actually going to bring part of this mouth back just a little bit. Okay, so there's probably a little bit too much going on up here in the eyelid. Maybe just bring him back. Alright, and maybe we bring this area out just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to call that good for now. Again, whenever you're creating these blend shapes, one, it's always going to be a bit character dependent, so all the characters' faces might deform just a little bit more, and it depends on what kind of flexibility you're looking for. Alright, so I do always recommend working from reference or having a mirror close by to actually be able to move your own face and kind of try to understand how it's going to deform. But this is the general idea for now with our face, or with this smile pose here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, mirror this over to the side, and when we come back we will set up our controls.